so I'm not just a big head in the screen.
Yeah.
This is perfectly for
Last week, yeah, you were perfect standing like that. I thought that was really good.
Okay, right about here.
Yeah, perfect.
This is like playing football when you're a little kid. Go further, go long.
Yeah, go back. That's so funny. You're so funny.
You send them out like, until they can't even hear you, and you go to lunch, right? That's the.
Well, you had big fields in Iowa. I learned a little bit about you last week. You know.
Yes, we are outstanding in our field. And by the way, speaking of what I learned growing up in Iowa, I'm going to promote my book coming out. It's by the Real Realtor, and it's called The Real Reports. And the nice thing about this book is it's going to give a perspective of everything that you and I are talking about. Because when I grew up in Iowa, we had, in the 80s, a lot of farmers who lost a lot of money, and it took all of our banks down. It was actually started in the 70s. I hate to talk about how old I am, but I've seen a few things, and I've helped a few people. And so by the time I graduated from high school, we were well into the banking crisis, and all of us went from having jobs and businesses to nothing. And I worked my way through college, and the neat thing about going to Iowa State University, my economics professors taught me urban economics and how it applies to the entire economy. So rolling forward, when they retired into Florida and I got here in 2005, it gave me a touch point of, what do you think about the economy? What's going on with these neighborhoods? Are we in a bubble? And 100% of them said, yes, we are. And so throughout that whole transition, I was already equipped, having lived through one crisis. So during the real estate crisis, like you in 2008, we were professionals, we were working, and we handled things from a transaction standpoint, but we also helped a lot of people move for their jobs. And it's the jobs right now that you and I are talking about, isn't it?
Well, the jobs are important, and you keep mentioning that. And I thought back to the bubble, the Great Recession of 07, 08, and the jobs weren't here. So in other words, as the market ramped up, I always thought, how are they going to pay for the house? And it turned out they couldn't, because they didn't have the job, and people were getting qualified for mortgages that had no business getting qualified for a mortgage. So the government passed ability to repay. So now as a lender, we really vet the borrower. So when you look at today's market, August 2020, people are buying homes and they're being qualified based on their ability to repay that mortgage. So as strong as the market is, as hot as it is, it's a healthy market, and it's there on its own.
And the nice thing about you and I, we're talking about our market here in the Gulf Coast of Florida. We've got 35 miles of beach, so there's a quality of life that's second to none. But the jobs and the companies that are here have multi-generation. They have grandma and grandpa working there, and some people in their 60s, because people like to keep their job and their benefits. Some people in their 40s and in their 20s. They have a lifestyle where they can work if they want and get overtime, 60 to 80 hours a week. And then when they have time off on their family, get in their boat and go to the water. There's new construction in Northport where it's boating neighborhoods. In Northport, you can park your boat, not in your front yard, but in your side yard. Don't drive it across your septic system. But in some of these non-deed restricted neighborhoods where you can buy a home and a couple of lots right next to it, it's the last place in Florida where you can have a massive amount of land and not be out in the boonies, as we would say in Iowa. Is that a term that they use here in Florida?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's changed so much. I remember when the boonies for me growing up in Sarasota was Interstate 75.
Right, Fruitville Road.
Right.
It was Fruitville Road.
Yeah, it was Fruitville Road. I remember as a kid going to Sun and Fun, which was just east of the Interstate 75, and it seemed like it was out there forever. And now that's, like I said, right in the middle of Sarasota.
Okay, something's happening to my screen. Hold on, let me look at what's going on here. Okay, so thank you for, we had that same experience. And the nice thing, if we were to quantify that, the boonies as a term, right? For any listener who is maybe in their 20s, I don't know. But That's an area from real estate urban economics that you and I would say is more than a 30-minute drive to the nearest job. Right. Because jobs are what set forth the local economy. So anybody who is confused about our environment here, you just look at how our businesses are treated. These are mostly first generation businesses. Now, I'm not talking about anything that's unusual, because you just have to go back to that book that was written, I think, in the 1920s or 1940s, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I
love that book. One of my favorite books.
Right? It's about the people you keep around you, and it's about the jobs that you create, and it's about having that mindset that where we are in the United States, we are enabled to create opportunity out of whatever's going on. And the other unique thing in the United States, and my Italian friends who are watching know this difference very well, and that is, in the United States, inherited wealth is not what moves this economy. It is all about the person who's creating jobs right now, who started their business 5 to 10 years ago. There's about a 5-year incubation period for any kind of business owner. So you're slugging it out, and hopefully you have, and that's in my book, in that a good group of people around you, like Napoleon Hill talks about, so that that amount of effort that you're exerting, like a steam engine, is in the right direction and not in the wrong direction. As an example, my dad had gas stations, and guess what happened? Somebody listening might not even know that there's such thing with gas stations where somebody pumped the gas for you, they wiped their windshield, right?
Yeah.
And I have a scar on my leg because it was back in the day when I was very little, where if you came back 10 times, you got a knife set. So my dad had a box of knives in the corner of the house, right? And I'm a 4-year-old, and I go into that box and I start playing with knives, right? Thank God I'm still alive to talk about it, and it's a funny story. I just have a big scar on my leg to prove it, and thank God my mom was good with the tourniquet right then. Right? So as a 4-year-old, that was my first emergency room visit. So when I check in at the doctor's, I don't even remember that emergency room visit except for the scar. But the point is, that is so foreign. And if my father had said, well, you know what, the economy's changing and there's no longer a margin in gas, maybe I should build a better gas station. What he did is he looked at the economy and said, wow, I have this location, people bring their cars, and he converted them to convenience stores. Right. So in the Midwest, at a certain point in time, in little parts of Iowa, the Mustang Markets is a place where I worked. And as an economy, we adjusted to that opportunity. Yes, in convenience stores around the United States, and I like to talk about this, especially in Florida, there are a couple of employers that our state invited in, Wawa and a couple of other companies, when a couple of governors ago, I think was Scott, invited them in, and they helped us get through this COVID-19, because at 10 o'clock at night, if I wanted ice cream, I was going to Wawa,
yeah,
right? Because that, like these, they had the ice cream bar, and
yeah,
and we weren't even getting gas because my husband drives a Tesla.
Right.
I stop there when I'm with him for the clean bathrooms,
yeah,
for the ice cream, and for the coffee.
Right.
And they were set up, and the employee satisfaction there is spectacular. I'm working with so many first-time home buyers that have been there and are loving it because they're treated so well. Now, yes, they're handling a lot of hours, but the shift in the economy of being convenient, they are the group of people that have supplied food and amenities for those of us who have not stopped working through all of that. And I'll come back to that report that you publish each week and I get an email from, but this week's numbers.
Wow, look at that.
Book, this is like 6 chapters right here. So what Dave and I talk about, I'll just try to read real carefully so that it makes sense. I can read it with meaning. And that is last week, and this is therealreports.com.
Love it.
And I have a Facebook page, and if you can't remember, it's TRR Today. So Dave's writing that down. That's so funny.
I am.
So, and Sarah, should I be like the weather person? I don't know if I could do this.
You look great.
I think they look at something off the screen, and that'll be the next generation of what you and I are able to do. But SRQ, and that's Sarasota, and Dave went to Sun and Fun, so he knows a little bit about flying. So anybody who knows a little bit about flying when you fly into this airport, it's called SRQ. It's not specifically in Sarasota, it's the area, but it's my way of saying Sarasota. We had 299 sales in the last 7 days. This is not last month. We had 206 of which were single family homes. The average price in Sarasota is $280,000, and it's down 0.95% in the last 12 month. So of which were 16 new construction sales. And Dave and I also believe, because we're involved with transactions every single day, that is maybe 1/4 number. That's why I put the 4 number. And Manatee County had 216 sales, of which 155 were single family homes. So not a lot of condos, and we're going to talk about that. And they're, of which 12 single family homes in Manatee County. We know with all the construction, that's about 1/4 the number. And in the last month, they're up 0.18%. Last week, you touched on something. You think there's just more availability in Manatee County. Is that what I concur with that. There's more availability. What else do you think the reason is for that stronger number in Manatee County?
Yeah, I just think there's more availability, and it's amazing to see the single family sales versus the condominium sales. And I believe, talking to people, most of the condominium sales, it's a lifestyle that you talk about, but the maintenance fees are higher. So a lot of the people in that $280,000 to $320,000 price point, you can buy more home without the HOA, the condominium fee being $300, $400, and in some cases even $500 per month. So you can get more home with the single family home versus the condominium. And then you talk about multi-generational. Lakewood Ranch, one of our #1 multi-generational communities in America, is in Manatee County. So I think that eats up a lot of the Manatee sales.
Well, and I have a fair number of buyers in the last month. With what I have going on in my infrastructure, I'm able to go out and find buyers who are in the pipeline for buying particular properties. But homes with an acre, Dave, we probably have more acreage with a single family home site, or the ability to put a single family home site. We probably have more availability in Manatee County.
Correct.
I'm just saying that from when I drive to the Sarasota County, depths of Sarasota County, we have so much new construction on that corridor up Lorraine, starting with Coulter Builders and actually right up into Lakewood Ranch, and south to where they've developed Skyview. Is it Skyview Ranch?
They did Skyview.
It's got John Cannon, Taylor Morrison. Who else is in there?
I don't know that the builder there. I don't know.
So that is gobbling up the last of Sarasota acreage. The only thing we have left are the horse farms that are already in neighborhoods there, and those do go for a premium. So we're seeing a resurgence of people wanting an acre and more, and we have the people that are ability to do that. We have all the tradesmen that have been here for the last 15 years building all these buildings, all this infrastructure, downtown Sarasota. It looks like a whole different place right now, doesn't it?
It's tremendously different. I think with people working from home, they want bigger spaces. So you mentioned acreage, people want to spread out again. So I think you're starting to see a resurgence. People that are leaving the downtown area again, where everybody wanted to be in downtown. Now they kind of want to go back to acreage. So I see that a little bit. And also bigger homes are selling. We're seeing a resurgence in our luxury market because people want more space as they're home and the kids are home. they want more rooms, right? So you're starting to see, I think, the larger home selling, and that looks like a national trend also here in Sarasota and Manatee.
So what are the interest rates? Because nationally, we're all affected by the interest rates and the constraints that happen with underwriting a mortgage. What happened last week?
Yeah, it's really good. So last week there was a really big announcement. So Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, we mentioned a few weeks ago, they were going to tax the refinances moving forward. And what I mean by that is, with the economic uncertainty, with millions of Americans in forbearance, what happened was Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac wanted to start recouping some of that money, so they were going to tax refinances 0.5%, which on a $300,000 home, that's $1,500. Well, they just announced last week, the bankers, we fought against that. So Fannie Mae is going to delay that for, up till through December. And that's a big deal for consumers that are looking to save money on a refinance, but it's also a big news for consumers looking to buy a home, because when the Fed announced that a couple of weeks ago, our rates kind of ticked up a little bit. And with the announcement last week, they kind of came back down. So we're below 3% on a 30-year fixed mortgage in most cases, and 2.375% on a 15-year mortgage. And if you can think about that, I always tell people, I know cash is king, but why would you want to take money out of your investment account when you're earning all that money and you can get money so cheap at 2.375%? So great time to buy real estate, and I think that's driving the market, Sandra.
And we don't ever talk about USDA loans. I was speaking to someone at 6:30 this morning, because it's a contractor working on our house, and we're all up and going myself at 5:30 in the morning, because I got contractors that if they can't start working at 6, they do, because by 3 it's just so hot. And he wants acreage, and at I-75 and back, we now get USDA loans, which are 100% loan. It has to have farmland. It has to be zoned agricultural. It's not going to be able to be in a neighborhood. Have you gotten any questions recently on USDA loans?
I do, and I just did a video on USDA, because I love that United States Department of Agriculture, and it is zero down. And a lot of times you can get the seller to help contribute towards closing costs. So it's not uncommon for people looking east of the interstate to get into a home for less than $1,000 out of pocket, and the payments are less than rent. Now, it is income driven, so you can make up to a certain amount of money, Sandra, because it's considered a low to moderate income. But the good news is, for a family of 2, you can make up to about $92,000 to $95,000. And then if you have children, a family of 4, it goes up even higher. So before you just start looking, make sure you get with Sandra and myself, so that we can share some of the intricacies with you.
That's a nice thing, Dave. What's a good number to get a hold of you?
Best number is 941-724-7653. That's 941-724-7653.
And in that process, when we're working with anyone wanting to, first we want to know the profile of where they want to go. We're going to help them with the urban economics. We're going to put the numbers as groundwork in front of everyone that we work with. You're very good at taking that whole financial picture, tax returns, pay stubs, opportunity, and then that job. How long have they been in the job? Stay in the job 2 years. And I'm working with them, hopefully in sync with you, so that if they're qualified by, or if you're listening and you're qualified by Valentine's Day or qualified by Memorial Day, we're always looking for those benchmarks and backing it up based on a week by week, a month by month plan. What are the top 5 suggestions that, let's just say, we'll take it one at a time. First time home buyer, they probably need the most information right up front. What are the top 5?
Yeah, I think the top thing is your credit. So when you're building credit, you want to have 1 to 3 credit cards, maybe a car, but you want to keep your utilization below 30%, because a lot of young buyers, or people in general, we utilize our credit cards. When you start getting over 50%, you lose points. And as we know, the better the credit score, the better the interest rate. We can go to a 640 credit score, Sandra, on a lot of our programs, but obviously if you're over a 700, you get a little bit better deal. So credit's important, so I always have the credit conversation first.
Now let's talk about utilization rate. very familiar with that because, as I said, I had a lot of jobs working through college. They tended to be in food service. I ended up working in the back, in the kitchen, because you can make a lot more money in the kitchen. By the way, working with knives. I have been working with knives since I was 4. Now, so, but in the front, I always had it in my mind, okay, I'm utilizing my skill set. I have to study when I get out of here. So during this period of time, for each table I wait on, based on their total bill, I'm looking to make a tip. So I always had a percentage in my mind and delivering service. So I loved big tables that ordered a lot of food because it was a big bill and my percentage went up. That gave me a personal experience with utilization rate. So Dave, now break it down to, if somebody's new to hearing that term, how would you equate that to them?
So for example, if you have a credit card and your limit is $1,000, okay, you want to try to keep your balance below $300. You want to try to keep your balance below 30%. If you have a $1,000 credit card and you owe $900, okay, we call that leverage. So even though you make your payment every month, your score never seems to go up, and you're banging your head and you're trying to figure it out and your score doesn't go up. That's why. If you try to keep it below 30%, you'll get more points. And I just had a buyer recently, and I'll give you an example. He had a limit of $500 on his credit card. He had a $400 balance. I had him pay it down to about 125. His score went from a 620 to a 680. That's a big deal in mortgage and real estate world, because that's the difference of getting a loan and not. So these are all things when Sandra engages in the conversation, this is all part of the education that we'll help you with and we'll guide you with that. So you're not alone, you have help.
Thank you for saying that, and so plainly. Now, choosing a credit card is even difficult because a lot of 20-year-olds know what their credit score is because it's on their phone. And then that advertiser right next to that credit score says, get this credit card and increase your credit score. But it doesn't always happen that way, does it? How do they educate themselves on how to choose that credit card?
Well, again, you don't want to have too many credit cards, but history is important, right? So if you've had a credit card for a few years, it makes you a good credit risk. If you do a Sandra saying and you get a new credit card, you could lose points in the short term because now it's a new credit risk. So you never want to shut down a credit card to get a new credit card. You want to try to see if you can increase your limit on what you already have. So for example, if you have a $1,000 limit, maybe you can call the credit company and get them to increase your score, or go on your phone and ask for a credit increase. That'll help you also. That's a little trick that people do.
How often can you ask a credit card company to increase your limit?
Sometimes when you pay your bills, they'll come to you and do it, but you can do it as often as you want. It doesn't mean they're going to grant it, but a lot of times they do. If you have good credit and they see that you're paying your bills, they will give you a credit increase. Wow,
how easy is that? That way, that individual is now not out shopping around and not confused. If it's a credit card that they thought, well, I'll stop using that because I want to increase my credit score, then we just have to have them pull open their drawer, and even though they stopped using it, it still is probably there unless they went to, you have to deactivate a card. There's an extra step. After you stop using a card, you have to deactivate it, right?
You do, and a lot of people do. So especially if they sell a home or they come into some money, they pay out their bills, and then they shut the credit cards down. And I had one lady that had over an 800 credit score, and she shut down like 6 credit cards before I met her, and her score dropped, and she could not figure it out. But that's why, because longevity isn't. We talk about utilization, longevity, your credit history is another important factor, because these credit companies all use different algorithms. And it's funny to us as a consumer, and I'm a consumer as well, what goes into an algorithm, right? There's so many different things that go into it. But Sandra and I are here to help you with that. You're not alone.
I'm glad we're talking about it, because you and I make it sound easy, but it's not. These are extra words that when it gets thrown at them, like the person that had the 800 credit score, That's not a first-time home buyer. That's somebody with that many credit cards and an 800 score. That's somebody that is well past owning their second home or third home, or maybe buying a second home with the money out of their home up north. So that bit of information educates them. I'll have to get back on the phone because I have some sellers who are now taking this opportunity to say, okay, I want to live in a different part of the world. I'm going to sell my home. I need the proceeds to go live in this other hemisphere. Right. And they need to keep that door open that if they come back into our economy, they have some longevity. That's something they can keep intact, isn't it?
That's really good advice, and that'll really help them in the long run.
Wow. Okay. Now I know how Newt Gingrich does it, because I think he lives, right? Doesn't he live in Italy and he podcasts from there?
I think he does, yeah.
Yeah. So, Newt, I know that you're keeping a couple of cards in the United States so that you can come back. And the nice thing about what we're talking about is we do work with people from all over the world. We have IMG Academy. That's almost its own economy. There's new development over there in Manatee County, multi-million-dollar homes being built on El Conquistador with mangroves and then access through kayak into the water because of what IMG has done for that economy, that education resource for professional sportsmen from all over the world. If you're Andre Agassi, you have a special passport, right?
Right.
And your whole family can come with you. And so you have an experience at IMG. Your kid went there. Tell me a little bit about how that's changed that economy over in Manatee County and that part of Bradenton.
Well, Nick Bollettieri started it with tennis with greats like Pete Sampras and Andre Agassi. And, you just see it grow. But, people come from all over the world to take their kids there. It's a high-end boarding school for athletes, but it's also a great academic environment. But the real estate around it, right? It's a ripple effect. So you have IMG Academy, which grows, and all these communities are springing up. Because let's face it, mom and dad are sending their kids there, and they live all over the world. Well, they want a place to stay when they come here. So they're buying second homes, vacation homes, investments, so they can be close to the children. So it really is an amazing economy all in itself.
Yeah, and those people from all over the world, that's how they discover our part of the countryside, isn't it? They feel good. We've got fabulous hospital services. It's easy to get to many different types of services when it comes to medical. We have great amenities in that, yes, anywhere around here you can go play tennis or golf. But if you're not into that, it's easy to go boating and fishing. And I saw some guys fishing out of the drainage ditch the other day. We've had so much rain. So as we continue to talk about our economy here and give accurate, direct numbers, there is no better time to buy than right now because of this very low interest rate. What are the final things that you want to say to buyers who are kind of on the edge? Should I get everything in order and get there, or what should I do if that buyer's kind of on the borderline, or should I wait to see what happens next year?
No, I've been telling people not to wait because the stories are people that have been saying that for the last couple of years. I'm going to wait. Well, prices continue to go up. I just saw nationally prices are up 10%. So two things can happen. A, the prices can go up, and B, the rates can go up. So with these low historic interest rates, who knows how long they're going to be here. As we come out of the recession, I think they're going to be low for a little while. So it's great to take advantage of these low rates now because you can afford more home. So even though the homes are a little bit more expensive, okay, you can buy more home and get into the neighborhood you want with a lower interest rate. So rates are down like 1.25% from where they were a year ago. And that's huge. That's helping a lot of people. And then last thing is our market here, it's affordable. So in other words, you went over the real numbers with people, but if you look at people coming from New York, California, other parts of the world where real estate's more expensive, it almost seems like a bargain, right? Even though our places are $700,000, $800,000, they're like $2 million in some of those other places. So it's a great place, it's a great time, and I say do it.
Me too, and I appreciate your time this morning, Dave. I'm excited about what's going to go on this week in the marketplace. Thanks for staying plugged in. And I'm Sandra LaFlamme with EXP at 941-961-5069. And you're Dave McLaughlin at what number?
941-724-7653. And congratulations on your book. I can't wait to read it.
It's coming out real soon. Thank you, Dave. Talk to you soon. Have a great morning. Bye-bye.